MLB Network insider Mark Feinsand joining High Heat now. And Mark, you and JP Morosi did a great piece on MLB.com about the whereabouts of Shohei Ohtani and where he might end up. And you had said that the Dodgers are still the clear-cut favorite in your mind, but you're certainly not, are you taking the Dodgers or are you taking the field as far as who's going to land to Shohei? What's your take?
I would still probably take the Dodgers. I think, there's been so much smoke about Shohei and the Dodgers for well over a year now. And there's nothing that's led me to believe that the Dodgers aren't going to continue to pursue him and do everything they have to, in order to get him. That said, a lot of times when there is that much smoke and everybody's pointing in one direction, the good old mystery team comes up. And I'm not sure it's so much of a mystery. We know what the teams are that can afford to pay Shohei what he's going to get. What we don't know is, does he only want to stay on the West Coast? Is he open to going to the East Coast? Would he be open to going to the Midwest? He's been very quiet. His agents have been very quiet. There's been talk out there about if anybody leaks anything from any club he meets with, they're going to hold it against them. So there's an amazing lack of information out there other than speculation. And until we know the answers to some of these questions, it's hard to predict it for sure.
And you had mentioned in the piece, Mark, that the Red Sox have kind of fallen out of favor, but what a better way to get them back in the limelight than getting Shohei Ohtani there. He likes to hit at Fenway Park. We don't know geographically if he's willing to go east. Do the Red Sox need him the most? I guess my question is, what team needs Shohei the most?
I actually think the Giants are the one that need him the most, if for no other reason than the fact that last year they had very well-publicized whiffs on Aaron Judge, who they could not sign away from the Yankees, and Carlos Correa, who they did agree to a deal with, only to have it fall apart for the physical. I think the Giants could really use an off-season win, not to mention you'd be taking him away potentially from the Dodgers, who everybody thinks is going to get him, and adding a huge bat into a lineup that really needs a little bit of injection of life. So I think the Giants are the team that needs him the most, but I do think the Red Sox are up there on the list of teams that could really use Ohtani.
Do you see Shohei Ohtani, because he can't pitch in 2024, Mark, do you see him signing a short-term deal until he can go full boat on both sides of the ball?
I would say there's no chance of him signing a short-term deal. When you're in a position to sign a deal of 10 years and potentially over $500 million guaranteed, you don't turn that away. There could very well be an opt-out in a contract where if after 2025 he comes back, he pitches and looks like the Cy Young contender that he's looked like in the past, maybe he can opt out after 25, go out and retest the market if he thinks that there's going to be a bigger deal there, if he shows he's healthy on the mound. But there's no, what if he comes back in 25 as a pitcher and blows out the elbow again, or just doesn't look like the same guy? You're not going to risk that if you're Ohtani. He's going to sign a long-term deal here.
Yeah, I'm going to take $500 million when I can get it. All right, moving on from Shohei Ohtani to Dylan Cease. Perhaps he gets traded. Is that the right move for the White Sox? And if so, who gets him?
I think it is the right move. I think a lot of it will come down to who doesn't get Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who doesn't get, maybe Blake Snell. There are some big pitchers on the market, and I think the teams that go for those pitchers and don't get them might pivot towards the trade market as an alternative. So I think it is the right move for the White Sox. They're more than one player away. This is a team that's not necessarily ready to win its division this year, unless they were to go out and add a bunch. But with Cease, with a couple of years of arbitration eligibility left, you can go out and get a pretty good haul for him, even off of a bit of a down year in his terms anyway. But I think there are going to be teams looking at Dylan Cease. I think Tyler Glasnow is another guy you're going to hear a lot about on the trade market. I've had a couple of executives tell me they think he is definitely going to be traded this winter. So in addition to the big free agent pitchers on the market, there are going to be some pretty notable names on the trade market as well.
And it looks like Sonny Gray is no longer available because it looks like he's signing a 3-year deal with the St. Louis Cardinals, in addition to what they already did with Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson. I thought perhaps he was more of a swing and miss guy, but he's kind of a, pitch to contact guy too, much like Lance Lynn, much like Kyle Gibson. He eats up innings. Why does this make sense for the St. Louis Cardinals? It seems like they have a lot of number 2s and number 3s, not necessarily a 1.
Well, if they didn't think they were going to go out and spend the money on a Yamamoto, or a Snell to bring in that number 1 guy, then this does make sense. This team needed a lot in its rotation. Remember all the trades last year. They knew they needed to refill at least 3 spots in the rotation. They have now done that with Lynn, with Gibson, and now with Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray did finish top 3 in the Cy Young this year. So even though he's not the big swing and miss guy, he's an effective starting pitcher. And if you're lining him up as your number one, he's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with most number ones out there. It's a 3-year deal. He's in his, I think he's about 34 years old, 33, 34 years old. So you're not looking at a long-term deal. Some clubs like the idea of not locking up a pitcher to a 6 or 7 year deal, given the nature of elbow injuries and such. So, the Cardinals knew they had to address the rotation. And if they knew they weren't going for the top of the market, they at least jumped the market and went out and filled those 3 spots.
Who do you think signs next, Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell?
I would think Montgomery over Snell. I would think that Snell's going to wait and see what the Yamamoto market looks like. Everybody's projecting that Yamamoto is going to get the biggest deal of any pitcher. Snell, coming off of his second Cy Young award, is going to be looking for something comparable to what Yamamoto gets. So I would say if one of those two, if those are the two I'm being given a choice of here, I'm going to go with Montgomery.